Negocios con 20 empleados o más de tiempo completo en la ciudad de Nueva York deben ofrecer un programa de ahorros para transporte al trabajo. Tanto los empleados como los empleadores ahorran. Llame al 311 para aprender más sobre esta ley.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
I am Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. As we age, our brains change, and we have to work a little harder to stay sharp. That's why I'm sponsoring Up With Aging at CUNY's Graduate Center on Sunday, March 20th, in cooperation with the Dana Foundation. Join me and other older New Yorkers as we learn how to keep our brains and bodies active and in touch. RSVP at upwithaging.eventbrite.com or by calling 212-669-4039.
My name is Andrew Roche, and I'm the founder of Civic Hall. And for those of you who have not been here before, Civic Hall is an 18,000 square foot collaborative work and event space focused on people who are interested in the notion that technology can be used for the public good, what we call civic tech. And since we opened 14 months ago, we have accumulated over 1,000 members, including 90 organizations, many of them city agencies, including the Mayor's Office of Innovation, the Department of Education, 311, the Economic Development Corporation, and the Department of Environmental Protection. And there's more signing up every day. One of the reasons why Civic Hall is able to exist is because New York is a very different place when it comes to technology in the 21st century. We've all heard about Silicon Valley and how important it is that our economy change into the 21st century. But in the 21st century in New York and the rest of the world, it's no longer just about the technology. It's about the quality of the human capital that any city has. And it's also about empathy and the ability of being able to use technology in ways that aren't just about making money, but are about making human lives better. And that's what Civic Hall is dedicated to. So it's with great honor that I'm about to introduce to you our guests, because this is exactly why Civic Hall was created, to have conversations like the one you're about to hear. First, I'd like to introduce my friend Arianna Huffington. Arianna and I go back maybe 15 years. She spoke first at Personal Democracy Forum, which is a conference which was a precursor to this place, back in 2004. And besides all the things you know about her, what you probably didn't know about her was that she graduated from the University of Cambridge, of Gitron College in Cambridge in 1971 with a degree in economics. And she was the president of the Cambridge Union Society, a debating society. And although we're all looking forward to Hillary Clinton debating Donald Trump, I would like to see Arianna debate Donald Trump. But more importantly, I'll just tell you a quick story. I went to a party with Arianna once at her beautiful loft not far from here with every single top media person, political professional across the spectrum, Barry Dillard, Bill Maher, Rupert Murdoch, and others, and I had just had coffee with her a couple hours before the event. And I left the event about 3/4 of the way through. She was in the middle of talking to everybody, and as I was going home, I think it was my BlackBerry at the time, I texted, "Thank you, Arianna, for inviting me to your party." And within 30 seconds, I got not an automatic reply, but a personal note back from Arianna thanking me for my time, for the ideas I gave her earlier, and for our friendship. And I was like, how does this woman do this? And now she's figured it out that the way she does it is to get good sleep. So thank you, Arianna, for coming today. Now, you all know who the mayor is, of course, the 109th mayor of New York. And I could list his attributes as well, but I will just tell you also a personal story. In 2005, I ran for public advocate on a platform to make New York City the broadband and wireless leader. And although many people didn't know what I was talking about, the New York Times actually asked me what Wi-Fi was. I didn't get a lot of support from the political establishment. I was running against the establishment to some degree. But then a councilman who I had met through work that I had done with a nonprofit organization called Mouse called me with an aide who was also a mutual friend, Peter Hatch, and took me out for coffee and sat me down for an hour and a half at Grey Dog in the West Village, actually, to talk to me about what I would have come across, what running for office was like, and how to fight for ideas in this space. And I'll always remember that because I really did feel alone, and I did feel like the political establishment didn't have any interest in my campaign, but the one person who I knew I could always rely on was Bill de Blasio. So thank you for that, Bill. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So the mayor, as you know, is working very hard on bringing broadband to all of New York. I think he's recognized it. He's recognized it as a major goal for balancing the inequalities that we have in our city. And so it's with great honor that I invite him here today, and he and Arianna are going to have a conversation about the future of civic innovation and the future of our city. Welcome to Civic Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you all for being here. And thank you, Mayor, for actually launching today the digital playbook for New York. It really seems to fit very well into your Tale of Two Cities philosophy and campaign primary motto about closing inequalities. And this is like a major inequality in a digital age that the digital playbook, as Andrew said, is partly intended to close. And for those who don't know about the digital playbook, because after all, it's only been alive a few hours, can you tell us what is it, how is it going to help New York, and who are some of the people who helped you create it?
Thank you so much. Arianna, it is a joy to spend time with you again, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about one of my passions, which is addressing inequality. And I want to thank everyone. I love the look here, Civic Hall, and I love what it's about. Andrew, thank you for once again fostering the kind of conversation we need to have in this city. I'm going to talk in a moment about some of the people who have been key to the playbook coming together. But I think to your point, this is another element of fighting inequality, and we can't do it the way it theoretically was done in the past. I would parallel 2 points. When I ran for office, I talked about a tale of two cities. And we are still fighting every day that tale of two cities. And obviously, there's a national parallel that all of us who believe in addressing inequality are working on right now. You cannot fight the problems of yesterday only with the tools of yesterday. You need the tools of today. And there's a recognition in that as a phrase that's been made popular this campaign year, the system is rigged. Well, let's face it. We see many elements of our governing reality that feel rigged to people, and in fact often are rigged. The way to defeat that, the way to overcome it, is to open things up, to make more and more information available, to make more and more access to power available in so many different ways. And we in government historically have not done that well. And again, was that all accidental? No. Why in so many parts of this country, including sadly in the state of New York, has it been so hard to vote? Why is even becoming a voter hard? Why is it hard to access information about all the agencies that are supposed to be serving us? Well, again, some of it was accidental. Some of it was purposeful. And what we intend to do is to be very, very focused on breaking down those barriers and opening things up. So the digital playbook is in a sense saying, okay, we have a fight against inequality. It takes many forms. We want the information that people need to address the challenges of everyday lives to be much more accessible. We want them to be able to question and push government to be better. We want them to be able to raise concerns and ideas to government in a more genuine and effective manner. And we want government to think differently, that it's our obligation to be in a constant dialogue with our people. So let me just note, first of all, you can go online right now, nyc.gov/playbook, and see this emerging new tool that is already starting to work. Second, the folks who had so much to do with it, I want to thank them all. There's a really vibrant team at City Hall, and I want to say right now to thank them. They are true believers. They're true believers in some of the ideas that Andrew just talked about, that Arianna, you have worked on throughout your life, and obviously through the Huffington Post. They believe we have to do things very differently, engage the public in a very different fashion. So I want to thank Ann Rose, our Commissioner for the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications. I want to thank our CTO, Minerva Tantoko. I want to thank Gabrielle Fialkoff, my senior advisor, and Darren Block, the executive director of the Mayor's Fund to Advance New York City, and Jesse Singleton, our chief digital officer. All these folks working as a team helped develop these ideas. And of course, we are often helpfully pushed by kindred elected officials who believe in transparency and believe in civic participation. Thank you to the inimitable Gail Brewer, a voice of conscience in the city, and the energetic and focused Councilman Ben Kalos. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to Andrew, and I want to shout out Mika Sifri as well for all they're doing with Civic Hall. So now I have a visual I'd just like to show up. This is very analog, forgive me, this is old school, but it will help us achieve everything we want to achieve with the digital playbook. The little surrounding piece of paper here says strategy deck. Very proud of that fact. We're actually thinking strategically in all of our elements of government. But here is something we're handing out throughout the government. While we're doing everything in a more technologically savvy manner, we're also reminding people in a very old school way to keep this in front of them all the time. And here's an example. Make services available to all New Yorkers of all capabilities and language preferences. And accents. Because what's more New York than a beautiful, sophisticated accent? Or another one, communicate simply and clearly in all languages. I'm going to give you one more just to give you the feeling of it. This one's kind of revolutionary. I hope you're sitting down. Reach out to New Yorkers and invite them to use city services. This is one of the areas where government, I think, has fallen down the most. And I found that, and I'll just conclude with this point on your first question, the experience we had with pre-K, which I think a lot of people know, was my first on my list of priorities, was my true love as something we had to do to change this city. But lo and behold, we had very little time to go from, in the first year, 20,000 kids in full-day pre-K to the next year, 53,000 kids, and we had to create a whole new reality. We had to find space, we had to find teachers, we had to put together a curriculum, we had to do all sorts of things. But most importantly, we had to get to the children who would benefit and their parents. And we went down that road, we realized government actually didn't know how to do that. To tell people something very different was available to them, to explain what it would do for their child, to make it easy to access, to do that in multiple languages, to do that in every neighborhood. So we put together an effort that really used all old and new school approaches simultaneously. We did things like going to barbershops and beauty salons and talking to people in their neighborhoods, and PTA meetings and all the traditional things. We had folks who worked the phones and would help parents with any specific problem and stick with them time and time again. But we also figured out how to make it so much easier to actually apply for something online, even from a smart device, to be standing there and to actually be able to start applying your child for pre-K for free in your neighborhood with the push of a button. That was a very different reality for so many parents. And they were essentially used to a no or a maze that they had to navigate if they wanted something beneficial for their child. And we said, we want to make this one of the easiest experiences you've ever had because it's so important for your child. So this is an example of what we want to now do throughout government.
And I love the fact that we are including the old and the new, and I know Andrew has always believed in that. We have a live event to launch a digital playbook. We have analog cards to help people navigate it. And also I'm thrilled that we have women leading this project, including the fabulous Jessie here, the Chief Digital Officer. So Mayor de Blasio, it's one of the sort of things that New Yorkers are entitled to, and that's complaining. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I always wanted to ask you, is there anything that you would like to complain about as our first citizen about living in New York? But can you pick something that the digital playbook can help with?
Yeah, there are many things I'd like to note, but I'll pull one out. Look, I like any other citizen, I get very troubled when I run into bureaucracy that is unyielding and unhelpful. It really bothers me when you try and get a simple answer, or you have an idea that actually might help, and no one's listening. So this used to bother me all the time, and I found, again, trying to use an old school example to make the point, when I started going door to door, first ran for local school board and then I ran for city council, and I was really struck by the fact that everyday New Yorkers, of course they had their complaints, but they often had a solution they wanted to suggest with it. And I remember very vividly one day, I was at the corner of 10th Street and 5th Avenue in Park Slope, and a woman lived on one of the adjoining blocks, and she said, there's all this trash flying around. Why doesn't the sanitation department come up with a trash can that isn't all wide open and would keep the trash in? And I was sort of standing there, eureka moment, from her saying, wow, I never heard that before, never thought of that before. Well, luckily, the sanitation department did have such a methodology, but it hadn't been utilized. It hadn't been implemented. It hadn't been funded. And because she pushed that idea, it made me go back and start finding ways to fund that for our neighborhood. Well, that was just the luck of the draw that I knocked on her door. So it bothers me deeply that there are everyday New Yorkers out there all the time who actually have something that would save everyone a lot of time, energy, and hassle and can't get it through the screen. We hope with the playbook to change that. And again, that's why one of the cards is like listening skills, reminding all the folks who work for the government that the person who's calling, ostensibly complaining, may also be offering the solution. And they deserve a response to their concern, which again, we all know was not something government felt was a part of the deal. How many things didn't get responded to and people thought that was normal. So I hope what this will do is create a response culture, a reporting culture where we thank people who say, hey, here's a problem you may not know about, or here's a solution you may not know about.
I love that. In fact, at the Huffington Post, we've launched an entire section called What's Working, and the goal is to focus on solutions, because so much of journalism is geared to focus on crisis, and obviously we're going to do that as well, but it's like the idea of if it bleeds, it leads. So we believe that if we put the spotlight on solutions, they're more likely to scale or even just be implemented. So I would love to invite anybody here who has any solution to any problem in New York, as well as posting it on the digital playbook, post it on the Huffington Post. I'm going to give you my email address to make it super easy to reach me. And as Andrew said, I'm very responsive. As long as I get my 8 hours sleep, I'm functioning perfectly. Arianna at HuffingtonPost.com. Anybody here founding their own site, can get the best email address.
Can I just jump off that point for a moment? Yes, there is a phenomenon that bad news travels faster than good news. But I want to say, having worked with all these great people I mentioned in government, good news affects us, meaning good ideas, good models, affects us deeply. We are constantly looking around the country, around the world, for what's working. Part of why we were able to do ID NYC, which we're very proud of. I think we're over 800,000 members now who have this ID that opens up a lot of cultural institutions to them and does so much to allow people to live life better in New York, including folks who are undocumented otherwise. Well, that idea started in some other cities around the country on a much smaller level, but it showed us a pathway. We took it to another level. The same with paid sick leave. We added paid sick leave, and thank you, Gail Brewer, for being one of the leaders in that effort. We added paid sick leave for 500,000 more people when I came into office, but we did that because of a movement that grew around the country and showed us how important it was and how it could work. Every day we are looking for workable models, and I know other folks around the country, around the world, are looking at us to see which of our models work. That illustration of something working, whether it's the most local or whether it is a model that could be used all over the world, is powerfully important to us. Anytime that's reported, that grabs our attention in a very particular way. So I just want people to hear that so that there's not, it's easy to get a little saddened by what we see in the headlines, but the speed of innovation is increasing. One of the glories of the digital age is that someone can have a great idea in Istanbul and then we can implement it the next year here. That's something that's powerful, and that means people should keep putting those ideas into the bloodstream.
Yes, in fact, I gave you an idea in the green room. In Rio, if a car goes over a pothole, the pothole tweets that there is a pothole here. Innovation, Andrew, you haven't thought of that yet. The mayor said there will be a lot of tweeting in New York City, but that's okay.
If the mayor was to simply ask all New Yorkers to take pictures of every pothole, they would do it, and we would get on a map right away.
Fantastic. We'll create a pothole map. And then what about creating a nap map? Where can people nap in New York City? You know, colleges have it now, increasingly. Colleges, you know, students are posting places where you can nap in the library or under a tree or whatever. Well, let's do it in New York City.
I think you've now pointed out to me there is a napping inequality crisis.
Yes, there is definitely.
We need equality in napping access all over this city.
Absolutely, because people who work at the Huffington Post are part of the 1% because we have 2 dedicated nap rooms.
Very nice. Support that.
So I want to ask you about something that I love that you said about the digital playbook, which is that New Yorkers can view the city as a platform. What do you mean by that? I love the whole idea, obviously, of using the city as a platform, all the data that is produced in the city among the different agencies of the city that can be used for other causes as well.
Well, I think it's in the same vein. Again, Gail and Ben have been in the forefront of efforts to really create an environment where we open up our data and share publicly and invite people to look at this information and help us see what we may not see in the rush of daily events. And I do think this is a challenge in government that everyday New Yorkers can help us address. We are dealing with the immediate urgent needs all the time. And there's 8.5 million people, and aging infrastructure, so many challenges, so many inequalities to address. That's always in front of your face. But again, everyday people are going to see solutions. They're going to see some synergies we may not see. They're going to take information and manipulate it in a way that we may not, and understand something that could be staring us in the face, but in the rush of events we're just not getting. It takes a culture that says, we in government, first of all, we did not corner the market of good ideas. We understand that. Second, we are going to always have our blind spots that need to be addressed. And I think by saying with the playbook is a chance for people to interpret the data and offer us back analysis, offer us ideas, offer us solutions we may not be seeing, test what's working. One of the great things that any New Yorker can do, and certainly we want to welcome the technology community to help us do, is test what we are putting into play. You know, we just started Link NYC, for example, so we're going to have these kiosks all over the city with very high-speed Wi-Fi access. The fact is that that's an idea that we think is going to have a very big impact for a lot of people, including folks who are often left out of the digital age. We need feedback to see if it's working the way we hope. Anything that we've initiated, we need to know if it's working. We need to know how it can be improved upon. So one of the things about the digital playbook, I think, is it's not quality control in the narrow sort of corporate sense. It's quality control in the human sense, in the small d democratic sense. We're going to do a lot. We're going to do it quickly to address inequality that can only happen by addressing broadband access. We need to know if it's working.
So to get more specific, the digital playbook has 6 guiding principles. Can you enumerate?
Yes, I should have brought a stone tablet with the... I'm like,
well,
why didn't my staff give me my tablet? Okay, so some of the stuff isn't here, but I'm going to use my notes for a moment. So when we say welcome all New Yorkers, our first principle, so that again, that encompasses clarity and simplicity of language, language access, the most diverse city on earth, putting things in as many different languages from around the globe that are represented here. And also something I'm excited about, trying to simplify every transaction that people have online with the city. I use the pre-K example. If it is difficult to access a service, people will not, in an ever more busy age, will not take advantage of it. We want people to access services. We're all familiar with the kind of offers that have been made over the years by public and private sector alike, where it's sort of too good to be true, we're offering you something, but we really don't want you to take advantage of it. This is, I use pre-K as an example, but there are many others. We want people to fully tap in, so we have to make things user-friendly in a much better way, and we have to make it easy to navigate. Second, I mentioned it before, listen and respond. So 1, a listening ear in all we do. 2, people deserve a response. Now this will be a tough one because, again, that's not the culture. And the volume can be very high. So this is one we're going to have to do over time, but we believe it will lead to a much higher level of civic participation and many more good ideas. Reaching people where they are is number 3, and that's obviously saying, make something available to people on mobile phones that is much simpler and easier to use, because that's going to be the technology that many, many people are going to use, and it has to be applicable to that platform. And digitize everything we can get our hands on, all the applications for all the things in the city, bring them into the modern age. 4, protecting New Yorkers' trust. We want to be very clear. People know their information is being protected. 5, build collaboration, which means a really close working relationship with the technology sector in this city, helping us think through and improve the efforts we make along the way. And also making sure, again, things are simple and modern. For example, something as simple as if you have to pay a bill to the City of New York, or you apply for a service, and your information is now plugged into our system, what about this wild idea? You should only have to do that once. You should only have to give your core profile once. And it should then be held across all agencies so that that will speed up people's life. You can clap for that. And then finally, as I said, the collaboration that is so necessary in everything we do, that's going to mean we want the challenging conversations. We want to know if things really are accessible, if they really are working in different languages, if they really are working in each community, because the final point is to match this to our overall efforts to address inequality. What we're trying to do with increasing broadband access connects directly with what we're trying to do to increase access to affordable housing, connects directly to what we're trying to do to connect our young people to better opportunities educationally, connects to everything we're trying to do to improve mass transit, whether it is the Brooklyn-Queens connector, our new light rail system we're putting in, or City Bike, or our new citywide ferry service. All of these pieces are about increased access, greater equality, not leaving any group of people or any neighborhood out of the equation. They all synergize. So we see this effort as connecting and elevating all those other pieces.
And another priority for you has been attracting and retaining the world's most talented people. So how do you see the digital playbook helping with that?
Well, I would say that right now New York City is in an admirable position. And I think this is not just about the technology community. I think it goes well beyond. But if you look at tech, we are surging right now. And talented people from all over the country, all over the world want to be here because of everything we have to offer, because of everything the city has as a whole, and then from a business and career perspective, because of the huge, intense growth of tech. We had the joy a few days ago at being at the announcement of the next phase of Google's expansion in New York City, which is going to be very, very exciting for the city, thousands more jobs. I mean, just watching this intensive expansion, it makes very clear to folks in that community that can come here and have a long-term career here, but also the way the community connects to all other forms of media and to all the other businesses that are so well represented here. That's one piece of the equation. But the piece of the equation that to me is even more exciting is tapping into the talent that's here right now. We are creating, through Computer Science for All, in our public schools, the most comprehensive approach to computer science education of any major school system in the country. We're going to literally integrate computer science education to all levels of our public school system. And we're marrying that with intensive new investments in the City University of New York in CUNY in 2-year STEM degrees. If we do this right, and we're going to need the help of folks in the tech community to make sure we do it right, our young people will not only be stronger intellectually and academically because we will start them early with full-day pre-K and do a lot to improve our schools overall, but they're going to be tech-savvy and ready and comfortable going into careers in the tech community. And the tech community has been very, very responsive. And this is something I appreciate. The tech community wants to see that progression occur. So it's not just about, are we getting the best talent from overseas or from Silicon Valley? It is, are we developing here in New York people of all backgrounds the ability to fully be a part of this community? And I think the answer is more and more yes. And we're making it very systematic with our tech talent pipeline, where we're working with folks in the tech community on literally what they need that will help us hone these strategies for maximum opportunity. And then the way it all comes around, Arianna, is you cannot address inequality writ large with minimum wage jobs and low benefit jobs. You can only address inequality writ large by restoring a middle class. And the jobs we're talking about here in the tech sector actually are middle class jobs and accessible to every kind of New Yorker. That's the pathway we want to build.
And I'm actually personally very grateful for an initiative that you and the First Lady launched in November, Thrive NYC, your mental health roadmap for all. And having had a daughter who struggled with drugs and has been sober for over 4 years now, I feel this is a no longer so silent epidemic that I also believe the digital playbook can help with by telling these stories, by offering solutions, and by making all that accessible to all. So I want to thank you for that. And also to say that actually you've been a pioneer in also demonstrating, unlike most politicians, that recharging yourself is to the benefit of all. And we talked a little bit about that, and getting that word out through the digital playbook, educating people about the latest science so that we can end this absurdity of leaders, whether corporate leaders or political leaders, bragging about how little sleep they get, about how they are always on, without actually recognizing that this is not to the benefit of the public. That's when you make bad decisions. That's when you overreact to crises. So how do you see that also becoming part of the digital playbook, which again is taking something very old, because after all, even God, created heaven and earth. It took 6 days and then took the 7th day off. And, she wanted to send us a message, guys. So it's, again, how can we combine something very ancient, the need for recharging and tapping into our wisdom, with something very new, the digital playbook, and getting information out immediately to everybody?
Well, I would square it this way. I think we're talking about a fair and livable society. And I appreciate very much the work you've done, because you're not just talking about quality of life in the traditional sense. You're talking about something I think more essential, which is, what are we here to do, and how are we thinking about it, and are we thinking about it? And it does not surprise me when people create a situation where their minds and their bodies aren't healthy, that they won't make good decisions. I think anyone in a leadership position is essentially dealing with a decision-making assembly line, in effect, that never stops. You have to, and you know this from everything that you've created, you have to make decisions on a constant basis, and they have to be right, and they have to be conscientious, and they have to be connected to the people. And this is another piece. I want to take your idea and sort of flow it through the filter of what we're trying to do here. The playbook, in a sense, is saying government must be connected to the people more deeply. It is not sufficiently connected. It's not grounded. It's not responsive. It's not really listening to the grassroots dynamics sufficiently. We have to actually build that connection. This is also, as you said, ancient in this sense, going back to what we had when we all lived in the village, and leaders understood very implicitly what their people needed. We have to generate that now in the digital age, and we have a chance to. The digital age affords us that opportunity in a way that we did not have in the last decades. So, but at the same time, if we're going to do that right, it means our humanity has to be intact, our sensitivity. Anytime I spend time with my family, anytime I spend time in my neighborhood, anytime that I'm connected to the physical realm, whether it's walking through nature or exercising, is part of grounding, is part of keeping an open mind, is part of remembering what really matters. So I appreciate deeply the work you're doing, because I think what it says, in a sense, there's also a quality over quantity dynamic to what you're saying. The people depend on us to make the very best decisions and to make them with a deep sense of the people's needs. And we better be able to feel the people's needs and not be clouded, but clear about what the people need and be able to act on it. And that is absolutely consistent with the larger concept of, in a sense, making government that too, responsive and clear about the needs of the people.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for launching the digital playbook. Thank you for making it clear that it is the people's playbook and
Yes.
that you want all of us to come up with not just problems, but solutions to problems and help scale them by spreading the word. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.